Brief musing on transits. Essentially, transits are context-driven like everything else, in the sense that your Uranus opposition could be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. Some of the greatest achievements of mankind happened under that transit. Carl Jung broke from Freud, had his momentary madness, built his castles in the sand by the edge of Lake Bollingen, and had a breakthrough into the collective unconscious. Rosa Parks stood up on a bus and said, "No, I won't sit in the segregated area." Uranus opposition.
Uranus opposite Uranus?
Yes. I'm just, those two people, those two events happened under their Uranus opposition. The potential of any significant Uranus transit is liberation. To the extent that that liberation is not possible, resisted, or under a Saturn complex, there may be trauma. There may be shock. If Uranus squares your nodes by transit, you may have an incredible opportunity to liberate something pertaining to your nodal axis. You may have the opportunity to create a future skip step by not doing so, if you like, or worse, resisting. There is no law like that. All we notice is an archetypal potential, like on the mandala last night. People talk to each other across the divides, and based on what's said, some stuff happens, or it doesn't. See, there's no simple rule that Uranus transiting something means you're going to be traumatized. Under certain Uranus transits, you might liberate trauma. Under a Uranus transit, you might have a memory emerge. You might be innocently at a workshop, like astrology, reincarnation, and the soul. Some idiot's gone to Denver and done some stuff, you know. And you might have an awakening, or you might be doing some body work, or with a friend, or, you know, and suddenly you know what happened, and suddenly you remember. Just as easily, you could disassociate and detach, and just act like nothing's going on. It's all to do with the karmic potential in each moment, and your will, your spiritual will, in response to who you really are, which is kind of the bottom line in life, always. So the transit picture of Uranus just represents a range of possibility. It could be a significant possibility for healing and liberation. It could indicate a traumatic event. Just remember again now, astrology fundamentally is non-causal. This is a non-causal symbolic correspondence we are studying. The stars do not cause anything. Your Mars transit does not cause you to have a bad day or a fight with a friend. Yeah?
So the consciousness is the cause.
The karma, as it exists inside you, relative to what you hold in mind each moment you exist. Your pre-existent karma and what you hold in mind moment by moment manifests reality. Astrology is just a symbolic correspondence to the range of possibilities within that field experience. It is non-causal. There is no idea that your significant outer transit causes you to leave your marriage. You left your marriage because you stopped loving your husband, because you wanted to choose independence. Now that might correspond with Uranus crossing the 7th house, and has been known to many a time. But it is not the same as it caused it. Yes?
Would you relate this to Jung's idea of synchronicity?
So, I'm asking to relate this to Jung's idea of synchronicity. Jung's idea of synchronicity is an acausal connecting principle. Acausal connection. So, in a sense, things happen, but there was no overt linear causation. The lady who is expressing, what was it, the story? She's expressing a dream about knowledge. And in the dream, an Egyptian scarab beetle comes to her. And she's resisting that knowledge in their process. And Jung hears this tapping against the window, and he opens the window, and in flies a big scarab beetle. And he just hands it to her, and she has the breakthrough. Did her dream cause the beetle to tap the window? Yes, no, yes, no. There's no overt, there's no linear causation. There's no temporal space-time overt causation to it. He called it an acausal connecting principle. It has some relationship to astrology. Jung, this was Richard Tarnas told me this in a really cool conversation at Norway. Really bright guy and knows loads about Jung. And he knows this because this was the day he was born that Jung wrote this letter. Richard Tarnas was born down the road from Jung in Switzerland whilst Jung was writing this letter to Wolfgang Pauli, the physicist, explaining why he hadn't read certain papers on quantum physics that had been sent because, in quotes, he was too busy studying synchronicity and astrology.
Wow.
The letter written on the day that Richard Tarnas was born. And then Richard Tarnas told this at a conference talk one time, and someone didn't believe him or challenged it. And so he went back to the collective letters and he couldn't find it himself. And he was like, in a kind of moment of self-doubt, what's this about? And then he was going through, I think it's the Synchronicity book, or one of those around that period, and he finds the letter quoted at the back in the thing, on the day he was born. But he even had someone like question it, that symbolic correspondence, and even went into some doubt about it. And when he found it again, it was like a download moment for him, the connection of his life's work to this figure who, a quantum physicist was taking seriously enough to want to send papers to, who was rejecting those papers on the basis that he was too busy studying astrology and synchronicity. So synchronicity, the acausal connecting principle, is a much better way of looking at astrology. Yes?
I just want to share an experience during my transit of Uranus during the 12th. For me was a connection in awakening to this unknown area that is the unconscious world. And through symbolism, through all the richness of the dreams world, of this area that Carl Jung called unconscious, collective unconscious.
And this is under Uranus in the 12th, transiting, that you open up to the awareness of the collective unconscious. It's very apt, isn't it? Signature.
This transit, I started to connect it very deep with all the Carl Jung feelings. Like when he was describing that he was a lone child, and most of the time he was by himself. But he said that during this time that he was by himself was the opportunity that life offered to him to get in and to have the opportunity to discover this deep energy that he says most of the people doesn't want to know about it.
Yes. It's very true, it's very beautiful. Well, she's talking about how when transiting Uranus went through her 12th house, she opened up to the potential of the collective unconscious, just like Jung had opened up to the potential of the collective unconscious, and how she identified with aspects of Jung's childhood, which was lonely and difficult. He had a number 1 and a number 2 personality, he used to call them. And the hidden one was the one that connected in depth. And in a sense, that's what Uranus in Pisces in the 12th house is about, isn't it? Progressive disillusioning to open up to that collective space. Yes?